Hello, I'm Hazel, and this is my Folio 2 reflective video for character place and simulation. This is my finished archival object. Throughout the 8 weeks, each finished object I created was reflective of a perspective or place. In so doing, I wanted to give my finished objects their own sense of place. I decided to create a miniature setting of a gallery room made out of recycled cardboard boxes. The room itself is a simple square format with an archway serving as the entry and exit point. The purpose for the miniature scale of the setting is to be able to draw the viewer's curiosity and draw them closer to the setting. It will naturally draw them to lean in and put more of their focus in an almost childlike curiosity mindset. I intended for the finished archival object to be playful and almost reminiscent of a project made by a child. As we pan to each frame, the artwork comes to life. Each object is represented as a still frame set on its own makeshift frame and then positioned on the wall. Observation. Inspired by the cityscape and the gradual switching on of lights in various windows of the surrounding buildings, I created a short animation loop by using exaggerated viewpoints and simple shapes to illustrate the buildings and windows. I wanted to reflect the impression of a structured and multi-layered cityscape that seemed to be growing upward instead of horizontally in the eyes of the viewer. Tinkering. I created the illusion of a three-dimensional whole using flat 2D illustrated layers that were carefully positioned to be viewable in AR as a 3D object. It allowed me to demonstrate how the perception of depth can be achieved using simple flat-shaped layers upon each other to form a three-dimensional subject. Found objects. I produced a couple of illustrations using the photos I'd taken of common kitchen condiments and created a brand new purpose and setting for them. As a result, I am giving new meaning, purpose, and creative freedom to one's imagination to these otherwise common items found in almost anyone's kitchen. Place. I prototyped a mock-up of a diegetic user interface of a student's view using Procreate for the assets and Adobe Aero for AR. By creating a hyper-reality-inspired future for what a student's experience could involve in the near future, I wanted to convey that the simple ideas of depth, perspective, and volume are heavily rooted in our reality and exist in our own story of the world. Object-oriented ontology. I illustrated and animated a simple scene of a plant making use of its current environment and growing with it and around it. I wanted to convey a stylized reflection of the beauty and peace that can be found in urban decay. Nature is powerful and, as we all can see, finds itself in the least likeliest of places. Time. I created a short animation time-lapse of a cherry blossom's birth to bloom stage using simple line animation. By representing the flow of time in a simple line animation style, I wanted to reflect the notion of how time passes and how every frame is reflected as a second that ticks by on a clock. In so doing, the simple animation style aimed to capture fluid and meaningful notions of the birth of a bud to the blossoming of a beautiful yet delicate flower that eventually succumbs to its short life. Character, action, and environment. I created a 2D animated loop of a ball bouncing down a ramp that is projected in AR. By creating a 3D passive space where 2D animation is triggered as it interacts through the seemingly 3D space, I wanted to convey the illusion of a three-dimensional space from a viewer's perspective, even though the physical imagery is 2D in itself. This creates an opportunity for more imaginative storytelling that involves illusion and something that is hidden in plain sight and curiosity. Forces. I created a hand-drawn and illustrated an illusion of perceived depth within a space using repetitious lines, curves, and shapes, using a black fine liner on a thick textured paper. By using simple lines, curves, and shapes to form perceived depth, I wanted to convey how the brain processes visual information on the concept of perception in a way that creates a three-dimensional space and the illusion of perceived depth on a two-dimensional surface. Character place and simulation allowed me to explore, experiment, and prototype the reflections that I took from my Studio 2 project. It also gave me new ideas in terms of what I can project in AR. The tests I did were not so much focused on the technical aspect of AR, but more so on the conceptual aspect of what I could utilize. I wanted to explore the kinds of illusions I could create that didn't necessarily require further technical knowledge in building a dedicated app or using a web-based AR that required coding, to name a few. An idea I want to explore, test, and translate to AR is the aspect of portals, revealing what is hidden. An example is where a portal to a completely different world is opened through an image tracker such as a QR code or image. Whilst 2D animation is still my focus, I'd like to explore how I can utilize a 2D animated 3D object created in a tool such as Grease Pencil and project that in AR. Regardless, the exploration of the various themes covered in the 8 weeks has allowed me to consider enhancements and potential directions to take in my ongoing project for Studio 3. Thanks for listening!